Hi, we're Team Genius Minds from Globe Telecom. We're a mix of MLOps and strategic analytics specialists. We joined this challenge to solve a problem that hits close to home. How do we keep people connected when disasters strike? Our project is called HexSecure. It's an AI/BI tool to help telcos and LGUs prioritize connectivity in disaster-prone areas. According to the Asian Disaster Reduction Center, the Philippines is visited by an average of 20 typhoons every year, 5 of which are destructive. Typhoons aren't rare in the Philippines at all. They're part of life, but some leave deep scars, like Yolanda in 2013 and Odette in 2021, which devastated entire communities and knocked out communication at the worst possible time. That's why we asked, can we use data to predict which areas are most vulnerable to losing signal during disasters? And can we help telcos, LGUs, and responders act before the next storm hits? Meet Genius Minds. We're a team from Globe Telecom, blending MLOps and strategic analytics to turn data into resilience and smarter decisions. Rainier, MLOps lead focusing on automation, governance, and model reliability. Sid, senior ML engineer, scaling model deployment and operational impact. Last but not least, Titus, strategic analytics lead, translating data into business aligned insights.
For this challenge, we used hex grids for Cebu and the National Capital Region as our basis for geospatial analysis. Then we layered in cell site data from OpenCell ID, flood zones from NOAA, population density from the Philippine Statistics Office, and poverty incidents to reflect communities that may struggle to recover. Each hex was scored to show where communication is most at risk and where help is needed the most. Our solution brings together a range of techniques to turn open data into actionable insights. First, we pre-processed spatial data to align flood zones, population, and poverty data layers with cell site locations to form the basis for each location's risk profile. Then, we calculated a weighted score per hex tile as a simple and interpretable risk scoring benchmark. Third, we used Databricks BI dashboard to rapidly spin up a user-friendly UI. And finally, we mapped key use cases from telco engineers, LG planners, and responders to make sure each one gets the insight most relevant to their role in disaster preparedness.
Thanks, Titus. Now, Rain will share a demo of our AI/BI tool, HexSecure.
HexSecure in Genie spaces. So we began by giving Genie structured instructions. We grouped the tables according to region, Cebu, and NCR, each of which have 5 tables representing the layers of features, hex grid, cell coverage, population, poverty, and flood risk. Genie computes a composite risk score per hex scaled from 0 to 100, where 100 means the highest vulnerability. And we prioritized the coverage first, 40%, followed by population 30, poverty 20, and flood risk 10%. Missing values are filled with smart defaults, ensuring complete results. We then give certain instructions to Genie and also ask it to, let's say, do some plotting. This is mainly for responders and decision makers. Genie returns hex maps highlighting the high risk areas based on the combined vulnerability layers. So this one is for NCR and the other one is for Cebu. So we then ask some other questions, let's say related to telco engineers. Can we see where there needs to be a reinforcement in the coverage based on signal strength? Let's say this is in NCR, the telco engineers can identify low signal zones in populated areas, ideal for tower expansion or optimization. For LGU partners, we can ask, let's say, where do we implement flooding control in Cebu? So this spots flood risk areas with dense or vulnerable populations to prioritize migration. It can also do some lists, like in this case, we identified top 10 towns in Cebu with low tower coverage and high flood risk. And finally, top 10 most populated towns in SCR. So as long as it is in the dataset, you can do it in Jing. Thank you.
This solution is meant to be practical. It gives each user the insights they need to act faster and smarter. Disasters don't just happen once, they keep coming. The question isn't if the next one will hit, it's when, and whether we'll be ready. We built this to empower those who prepare, respond, and rebuild, to act before disaster strikes. Because every signal we protect, every risk we uncover, and every gap we close could be the difference between disconnection and survival.
And that is all for our presentation. Thank you.